Hey everybody, this is Rob Fletcher here. I'm the founder of Quixote Consulting, and thank you so much for choosing to be together today. It's great to be together on a topic that I hope will be super helpful for you. So, a couple things to think of. This is a lot of material, a multi-day workshop that I tried to take some of the best of things that are most helpful right now and distill it into a half hour. Feels like a little bit like a higher wire act or something. With that in mind, I'm going to be glossing over a ton of things, just giving you ideas. And I haven't said that for any of the other webinars, I may go over a couple minutes over half past the hour. So if you do need to get off a half past the hour, I certainly understand you're going to be getting the notes from this and also an access to the recording too. So if you want to catch up on that last little bit, if you do need to leave. We'll be doing a live question answer after the webinar. So I'm happy to stay on well past half past. And anytime you have a question, put it in chat. This is a bit unlike our interactive trainings where it's a lot of back and forth. This is more me to you, one to many. One way to help you stay focused and help you stay in the game and taking on this information is being active in chat. Not a demand, but if you want to, there are little prompts that you can put into chat. For example, right now, you can find out where your chat is and just list one resiliency challenge that you're facing. And it's helpful to, whether you list it in there or not, to have one in mind, because this isn't tailored for you specifically, other than that you're a human being, so it's tailored. But this is more universal help. And then you are going to decide what works for me, what works for me in my situation. Are you alone? Do you have a family that's driving you crazy? Do you wish you had a family at home driving you crazy? All sorts of different things. So you pick your situation and know that there's going to be something in here that's going to help you. So Quixote Consulting, we do a lot of virtual training. We do a lot of in-person training for corporate teams, nonprofit teams, work teams. I do a lot of one-on-one coaching virtually. Not in person at this point, but do a lot of virtual coaching to help everybody be the best that you can be. So let's get right into it. First, we have the caterpillar. And what I invite you to do is think about you being a caterpillar, just going about your day. It's pretty predictable, unless a bird comes down to eat you. But other than that, it's pretty predictable. You're just moving those limbs, eating some leaves, doing it day in, day out, day in, day out. And then one day something happens. Change happens. You go into this dark place. You're sequestered in there. You're sheltering in place. You become goo, basically. You dissolve. And basically, you don't know what's going to happen next. There's a whole lot of unknown. Whatever was known, the caterpillar, is now into the unknown. And this is one thing that I think about resiliency, that you're doing something where things are working, and then something traumatic hits or something unknown, and you go into this dark place, into the unknown place. And what do you hope for next? A lot of us hope for things to go back to normal. Things to go back to the way they were. If only I could get through this, then things are going to get back to normal. Things are going to get back to the way they were. Well, maybe that will happen, but some things are never going to be the same again. Things are going to be different. Things are going to be worse. Things are going to be better. There are going to be threads of the same. But what I invite you to do is, instead of finding a way to bounce back from some challenge into being who you were before, is to bounce forward, to go forward, to move into something that you want to be. So to me, resiliency moments are choice points where you can choose one way or another. You can choose, do I try to go back to sleep? Do I go back to munching all the time, all day long? Or do I try to fly? So here are some tips on helping you fly. One of them, is something I called the resiliency pyramid. Just like that classic Fisher-Price toy, that levels build on levels build on levels. And if we were to look at it big picture, the bottom level would be the body, because the body supports the brain, and the brain supports us reaching out into the world and helping other people. So we're going to be spending a chunk of time on the body, which supports the brain, which then helps us move out into the world. The base of the pyramid is unquestionably sleep. If you do not get enough sleep, none of this other stuff is going to work. This is the base. So I invite you to spend extra time on how do I get just even a little bit more sleep. If you're going to remember one thing about sleep, it's remember aim for 8. Aim for 8 hours if you can. Because we are hardwired to need 7 to 9 hours of sleep and a mid-afternoon nap. Doesn't mean we're going to get that, but that's just the way we are wired. It's the law of hardwiring. We've been this way as animals, basically. Then here are some things to think about in praise of sleep, if you will. It's a brain car wash. You are 4 times more likely to reach the age of 90 if you do take an afternoon nap, an afternoon siesta. If you abandon the siesta, it makes you more likely that you're going to die from heart disease. It is a myth that older adults need less sleep. They just find it harder to sleep and harder to be efficient with their sleep. Older Americans' deterioration in health is linked inextricably with their deterioration in sleep. We have 2 separate rhythms. We have a rhythm that is pushing us to wake up, the circadian rhythm, if you've ever heard of that. And then there's also what I call sleep pressure, where it builds as you need more sleep. And the more you resist that, the grumpier you get, the harder it is to get through life. So you have these 2 different oppositional systems that are always kind of negotiating and then sometimes at war with each other. And we've all heard, or most of us have heard, that it takes 10,000. There's a big study on masters of different things, of musicians and writers and et cetera, and so on and so forth. What made them great is that they spent 10,000 focused hours on their craft. What the other thing that they found in the study that hasn't been noted as much is that the base of these people is all these people got over 8 hours of sleep a night. So that's the other 10,000 hours. So you can work hard at doing something, but the other 10,000 hours is going to get to you. Now, here's my scare tactics. Here are all the problems. There are a ton of problems if you don't get enough sleep. I'm not going to go through them. I'm going to send them to you. You can read them and weep, but we all need a little bit of scare tactics to get us to where we need to go. So let's move right on to how. How do we get more sleep? If you only remember one thing about this, it is your bed cave, if you will. Make it as much as possible like a cave. Think about Neanderthals, cavemen sleeping. What did they sleep in? They slept in a place that was cool, it was dark, it was quiet, it was safe. So you look at your bedroom and say, how dark is this? And can I make it darker? What do I need to cover up? What do I need? Are there blinking lights? Are there glowy lights? Do I need to take my alarm clock that's facing me and glowing at me all night long? And do I need to turn it around? Do I need to turn off my phone? Can I flip it upside down? Is there a glowy thing from my TV that's in the room? Can I put something over that when I go to sleep? The darker it gets, the better off you're going to be. And cool, 65 degrees max. If you can get cooler than 65, then all is well. The cooler it gets, the more layers you're going to need on you. But anything between 45 to 65 is pretty nice, pretty darn awesome for sleeping. Your brain is an airplane that slowly descends. That's why it's so hard for us to go from work to home, because we go home, but our brain is still doing this. It's still taking time. We're having dinner here with our family, but our brain is still chewing on work. And it's the same thing when you're trying to sleep, that when you are trying to go to sleep, if you've just looked at a screen, if you've just looked at information, you've gotten something in you, your brain is trying to figure it out, is trying to work through it. So at least 1 hour before screen free. And that includes Kindles, that includes all sorts of that. If you're going to read an actual paper book. And if you can't be screen free, warm the screen up. The problem with the screen is not that it's information. It's mainly, it's this blue LED light that the guy who did it won a Nobel Prize for it, but we are paying the price for that. It is basically saying, wake up. The blue LED says, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Every time you're looking at it, it's your TV screen, it's your computer screen, it is your phone screen. So you want to not be doing that before you go to sleep. So if you can't be screen free, if for some reason you need to look at your phone just before you go to sleep, then at least warm the screen up. So you have sunset, sunrise settings on your phone that can make it more orangey. Same thing with your computer. I have a app called Flux on my computer that is helpful for that. It is also helpful to have a sleep schedule. You can't really catch up on the weekends. And so it doesn't help to go to bed a lot later and wake up a lot later. Your body is going to try to just wake you up at the same time. Remember, we have those independent rhythms. So get into a sleep schedule and exercise. It is a virtuous cycle if you can move and if you can sleep. Sleep helps you exercise, exercise helps you sleep. Avoid caffeine, avoid alcohol a few hours before you go to bed. Unwind in some way, any way you can do it. One way to do it is take a hot bath. It warms you up, opens the capillaries, and then it cools you off afterwards. Get outside in natural light during the day. During the day, if you can get outside in natural light, something in the light that goes to us helps us go to sleep at night. It's feeding something that our brain and our body really needs in order for us to sleep. And if you're in the middle of the night, or you can't go to sleep right away, or if you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't go to sleep, 20 minutes, get out of bed. Give the signal to, this is for sleeping. And this is the one that people hate me for, but I hope will thank me for. And that is no snooze. No snooze. Snooze, once you get, it's like a mini heart attack when when the alarm goes off. And then that sleep that you get is not really good sleep. No naps after 3 p.m. Try not drinking or eating anything 3 hours before. I'm just going to cruise through these. Don't go to bed too full or too hungry, and don't overload with carbs. So pick one, share a tip, or ask a question in chat now. Just take 1 second. Take a look at this. Pick one that you might like to try out. Just pick one. You're going to get them all, but it's helpful to pick one. Moving on. Literally, to move. So sleep and then move. In place. I like to think when everyone says shelter in place, I'm hoping everybody is moving in place. Here are the benefits for your brain. The most important one for you to remember is our brains are built to move. They are. It's just, there's no two ways around it. And here are benefits for your body. Of course, you knew that, but it's helpful to remember, hey, your brain gets all these benefits and your body gets all these benefits. Not going through them, you're going to get them after this. But let's go right into how do you do it? I hear so many people say to me, yeah, but I don't like to run. I don't like to swim. I don't like to lift weights. I don't like to whatever. That's great. There's something that you like. Find out what you enjoy and start there. Don't worry about the other stuff. Just find out what you enjoy, start there. And if you can walk just 5 minutes a day, you are counteracting aging. That's the data. It's nice to know. All it takes is 5 minutes to get you going. And if you can do small chunks throughout the day, that's even more helpful. So maybe 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes at lunch, 5 minutes in the afternoon, or even less. I've talked from the Working From Home webinar about the Pomodoro technique, where every half hour you get up and do something. Here's your chance to do something. You can do all these different things that are going to get you just a little bit of sneaking in exercise, if you will. And then think about, how will this benefit my family? How will this benefit my pets? How will this benefit anybody I care about? What's a motivation for you to move? If you have a motivation, you're more likely to do it. And you can pick your time of day, but if you go too late before you go to sleep, just before you go to sleep, things are wiring up now. And it's going to take the brain a while to calm down. So exercising in the morning gets you the most benefits throughout the day, but anytime you exercise is going to be great. You can think of 3 different areas you can get exercise. You can do aerobic, some just walking, strength, lifting something, anything, and flexibility, whether it's yoga, whether it's just stretching, whatever you do. And if you have an exercise buddy, you are more likely to do it. And you are going to be tempted, like me, all the time, every day, to not work out. All you got to do is just start. Just say, I'm just going to do 5 minutes. And at the end of the 5 minutes, if you still don't feel like doing it, that's great. You just counteracted aging. Yay, that's wonderful. But odds are, once you get over that initial inertia, then you are going to be able to keep going. So just tell yourself, hey, I'm just going to start with 5 and see how I feel. Pick one of those for yourself. You can write it down. You can put it in chat, whatever you want to do. Or if you have a question about moving, you can put it in chat as well, and I'll get to it at the end. So after move, the next most important one is for your body is eating. So sleep more, move more, eat more. Not kidding, just kidding, just a little different than that. Eat. Probably the best book I've read about eating is something called Food Rules by Michael Pollan. And it is a great, just short read with tons of tips. And he breaks it down to eat food. And what he means by food is real food, food that looks like food, not too much, mostly plants. That's his recipe. And I have found it super, super helpful to have something that simple. Here are his 7 food rules. Pick one that's going to work for you. Don't eat anything your great-grandmother wouldn't recognize as food. Your great-grandmother would have a really hard time understanding all of the middle aisles in the supermarket. Don't eat anything with any more than 5 ingredients. It's wonderful to pick up your oatmeal container and look on the back and it says ingredients, oats. All right, that's 1. Good. Stay out of the middle. Stay on the perimeter. That's where the stuff is fresh. And don't eat anything that won't eventually rot. And that includes McDonald's hamburgers. I know there's been experiments on how long will it take before this thing shows sign of fungus, and they don't. So it's helpful, think about if it won't rot, if it's not worth eating. Always leave the table just a little hungry. Enjoy meals with the people you love. And if you don't do anything else on this, at least enjoy meals with a person you love, even if it's virtually, even if you get on Zoom and you're both having your meal together. And lastly is don't buy your food the same spot you get your gas. There's very few good things happen there. You can pick one of those. You can share your own tip. You can ask a question. And we're going to the next level up. Those first 3 were about the body. These next ones are about the brain. And outside, just looking at this image is going to calm you down. That's what the data says. And I believe it. It's a beautiful picture. It's outside. You can let it all in. There's lots of reasons why. You're going to get them. But one thing to think of from this is that our brains are still wired the way they were that our ancestors had. Things do not change in the brain very, very quickly. Wired to be outside 100% of the time. Something about our brain wants to be outside, even if we're like, nature, ick. Something in our brain gets happier and more relaxed if we get outside. How do we do it? Here's some ideas for you. Start the day off with 5 minutes of outside time. So you might go for a 5-minute walk outside. Feed 2 birds with 1 hand right there. Snack or break outside. Take your break outside. Take your lunch outside. Green places count. I know it is getting harder and harder and harder, especially in urban areas, to find places that are open or find places that you can do social distancing. But if you can find a spot, or you can find a strange time of day, like early morning or not on the weekends. I went out for a walk in a not a popular spot, but a semi-popular spot the other day in the windy rain, and I was definitely the only person there. The next day, lots of people. Sunny days are especially important. 10 minutes just twice a week increases vitamin D in us. Gardening is an idea. Move whatever exercise you do, even if it's push-ups or sit-ups or stretching, just move it outside. Make a meeting or a call outside. You don't actually have to exercise. You don't have to do anything. You can just sit out there. You can lay out there, especially as it gets warmer. It's going to help. If you do it enough, you don't have to think about it anymore. It's just going to be automatic. There's no question. Of course, I'm going outside. The question is, when and what am I going to be doing out there? If you can do 5 minutes, it's going to help. And if you can do 5 minutes, maybe you can build up to an hour. Again, it's not strenuous activity. There is no activity related to the outside. It's great if you can put those two things together. But the outside helps you enough. Just being out there. It's what our brains want. It's going to make our brains happier. So pick one. Which one do you want to do? And if it feels like too much for you to pick one right now, you're going to get all this information. And you can look it through and circle one. You can print it out, circle one, whatever you want. Here are some ideas if you can't get outside, because some people can't. Although even in California, where they have the most strict shelter-in-place rules, one of the essential activities that they say is allowed is getting outside for solitary exercise. So still okay there. I don't know where you are in the world. I know some of you are in Europe and you need passes to get to the supermarket in Spain, for example. So if you can't get outside, here are some ideas that will bring the outside in. And this helps. Doesn't help as much as actually getting outside, but just a picture of nature, just a window, just looking at, just hearing sounds. I went on YouTube yesterday and just typed in birdsong or forest or nature, and like there's each one of those videos is 8 hours long. Just put it on and it'll calm your brain down throughout the day. So lots of different ideas, not going through it. You can go through it on your own, but just know that the thing to remember from this is that if you can't get outside, bring it in. It'll help you. Now let's look at what I call the circle of influence. Some people call this circle of control, like what you can control and what you can't. I'm thinking about what can you influence and what can't you. We have a lot of information coming at us all the time, but we filter it and we only let certain things in. And we have a focus. We'll focus on one thing or focus on the other to the exclusion of other things. It's how our brains work. So think of this focus as a flashlight, and then think about which direction is my flashlight headed. So am I focused on the news, getting the barrage of the news all day, or focused on my Facebook feed, or all the incoming email that I'm getting, or whatever it needs to be, all the demands of me, or all this stuff that I don't really have a ton of influence on? Am I focusing on that? If I am, okay, that's great. Lots of people are doing the same thing. Is it helping you? Is it making you more resilient or less resilient? If you're feeling that you're becoming less resilient, then shift your focus. Shift your focus to something that you can influence. So, what can you influence? You can influence how much news comes in. You can pause and then breathe at any point. This is a classic and strong technique for calming the body down, calming the nervous system down, calming the fight or flight part of the brain down. You pause and then you breathe. And if you're breathing, if you're pausing and you're breathing, go for more deeply and focus especially on the exhale. Limit the bad things So news are potentially bad things. Anything that's bad in your life, try to limit it and increase the good, both in and out. So you're helping yourself and then helping the people you're moving out in the world and helping them. Focus on your health. You have more sleep that you can get. You can move more. You can eat better. You can focus on your health. Your health is the biggest factor statistically in how long you live and the quality of your life. So if you are worried, if you're anxious, do something about it and focus on your health. And then think about your heart. And this is not physical heart. This is your emotional heart, your connection with yourself, connection with the people you love, the things you love, and focus on using your mind to the best of your ability to help other people. Focus on making your home environment as wonderful as you possibly can. You can influence all of these things, and you can focus on your finances. You may not be able to focus on the money that's coming in, trying to influence that. Who knows? Right now, there's no work for me right now. So I can influence, well, how much money do I have? What's my budget? How long will this last? Where can I not spend money? And how can I eat more, how can I eat better, but frugally? How can I contain my circle of influence with my finances? Financial anxiety is one of the highest sources of stress for people. The next part of the pyramid is connection. We start at the body, went to the brain, now we are moving out into the world and letting the world in. We're connecting with each other. This Walt Whitman quote, one of my favorite poets, "The gift is to the giver and comes back most to him or her. It cannot fail." Anything you give, anything that you give will come back to you, most to you. It cannot fail. And we are experiencing a ton of grief now. There's so much grief out in the world, and there's so much grief for us to process. And it's partially human nature, I think, to avoid that grief. So what does we equate grief with? What does grief mean? If we're feeling grief, but a little worried about it, what happens? What might it lead to? Good or bad? The thing that I notice that when I do let grief through is that it leads to kindness. There is a Tibetan saying, the sad and tender heart of the warrior. And what that means is you let the sadness and the tenderness in, and it connects you with our common vulnerability. So to back this up, here's a poem called Kindness. This is just a fragment from it by Naomi Shihab Nye. And before you know what kindness really is, first, you have to lose things. Before you know what kindness is, you have to lose something. You can't know what kindness is until you've lost something, until you've grieved. Feel the future dissolve in a moment, like a salt in a weakened broth. Before you know kindness as the deepest thing inside, which is what we want to be kind for each other, you have to know sorrow first. You have to let the sorrow through, let yourself feel it, in order to do that for other people, to help other people. Then after that, after you've let the sadness and the grief through and not be afraid of it, then only kindness makes sense. That's it. Nothing else makes sense. It's either fear or love. Kindness. Only kindness ties your shoes, and only kindness sends you out into the day. It's not just kindness for each other either. It's kindness for yourself. Because we are so insanely hard on ourselves. So we can start with our grief, we can go to our kindness for ourselves, and then kindness for other folks. Which leads us to that shared vulnerability. Everybody you are interacting with is also a little bit scared and a little bit sad about something. And just like you, they want to be happy and they want to be fulfilled and they want to be connected. So it helps to be generous. And generosity doesn't mean money. It can mean money. But really what it means is a generosity of spirit, a generosity of kindness, of helping each other out. Last, after connection, is appreciation. This is one of the most straight line after pausing and breathing to get you back to your executive function of your brain, your smartest part of your brain, is to appreciate. So you pause, you breathe, and you appreciate. You appreciate something, ideally, something that's right here and right now. One way to do that is use the science of savoring, which is just simply slowing down. Fear wants us to move faster, wants us to move forward. When's everything going to pick up? When's everything going to open up again? When's the economy going to go up? When's the stock market going to go up? We need to happen now, now, now. And the opposite of that is taking a cue from nature and just slowing down. Nothing's going too fast right now outside in nature. You can savor things, you can slow it down. And after you do that, then you can get to a place of appreciation. So here are some thoughts that I have on some of the things that I can appreciate right now and that you can appreciate right now, because these are true. We are simply alive. It is good to be alive. It's hard. It's not easy to be alive, but it is good to be alive. And we are breathing. We just breathed in, we just breathed out. Today, anyway, that's happening. And for today, we are safe, because if you weren't safe, you wouldn't be able to be on this webinar right now. So today, we're safe. We don't know tomorrow, but today is all we have. Today, we have some food to eat. Today, we have a roof over our heads. Today, whether that person or people are with us in that room or in our home, doesn't matter. Somewhere in the world, we have someone in the world that we care about. And the gift comes back to you. There is someone in the world that cares about you. There is. Whether that person is in the home with you or not, there is someone out there. And to have a basic sense of appreciation of these things is powerful for making you more resilient, for getting you back to you, and hopefully bouncing you forward. We have the technology. This is amazing. You know, when the Spanish influenza happened about 100 years ago and all those people died, they didn't have this. They didn't have the ability to reach out and help each other out in this way. And we get to choose how we help. We have lots of options of being generous and being kind with ourselves, with each other, to our pets, to our loved ones, to nature, to anything out there. We get to choose. So here are some closing thoughts. This is an unasked for ordeal that we are home, that we're all home, sheltering in place, going a little stir crazy, feeling isolated. But this is the potential beginning to the hero's journey. And the hero's journey is where all of the good things in life happen. We always have to leave the known and move out into the unknown in order for something to change for the better, for us, and for us to bring it back to our people, to the people that we care about, and to help them. So this is the beginning. It's the beginning of your hero's journey. You didn't ask for it. I didn't ask for it either, but we're on it right now. And that's a painting called Manhood from the Cycle of Life, I believe, by the 19th century painter Thomas Cole, if you were interested in checking out. It's 4 paintings. Another thing that I'd like to just leave you with is crisis equals challenge plus opportunity. Resiliency is not just getting back to where you were before the crisis. It can bounce you forward. The Chinese character for the word crisis can mean both challenge and it can mean opportunity. So it's a challenge. This is a crisis that is happening in the world right now. And it is incredibly challenging. And there are opportunities that we can see and opportunities that we're not able to see yet. That it is, what's the opportunity? We're in the cocoon now. What is going to be the butterfly after the cocoon? It's not going to be the same as the caterpillar. We have the opportunity now to live a richer, more meaningful life and to make changes that we want to make. So 1:35 Eastern. So I didn't do too bad. Oh, missed one. Face the scary stuff with kindness. And I hope you remember we are all in this together. And I'm going to spend one more minute on this with a story of a man that lives in Harlem that was on a call that I was on. And he had gotten COVID-19 and he was recovering from it. But while he was recovering from it, he developed symptoms of a hernia. So he went to the hospital again for the hernia. And as you know, New York City is just, it's so hard there right now. And he was talking to the nurse that was helping him. And she said, in all my life, I've never felt this so strongly, that we are all in this together. And that's from someone that's right there on the front lines that is, potentially can get COVID herself any moment. And she had the feeling that it's not me versus you, that we are all in this together. And this is a feeling that more or less is spread throughout the globe. People are feeling this. Not everyone is feeling this, but a lot of people are feeling this. A lot more people are feeling this than were feeling this about 2 months ago, put it that way. And 2 months from now, who knows what we're all going to be feeling. 2 years from now, it's not going to be felt as strongly as this, most likely. So here's your chance to remember this, to put this deep inside you and deep in the people that you care about, that we are all in this together. Because whether we notice this or feel this, it is true. We are all in this together. So I'm going to do question answer in a minute, but one little notification. Next webinar is how to give a virtual presentation. And for those of you who are on this and are like, I'm never in my life going to give a virtual presentation, you can translate that to say how to use Zoom, basically. So we're going to be working with, how do I look? How do I sound? What are some things, what are ways that I can help connect each other? So for example, my family is doing a weekly family call, and there are things that we can do that will help each other or hinder each other connecting with each other on those calls. So that's next Thursday, same time. And to learn more about our virtual offerings, then you can feel free to send an email to info@quixoteconsulting.com. And let's go now to the question and answer. If you have any questions, then feel free to put them in chat right now. So there was one question early on, even before it started, where does optimism meet reality? And there is a great article called Tragic Optimism that a colleague just sent to me. And that really helps, basically saying like optimism is not so much about look on the bright side of life or Pollyanna or something, is to say that, hey, we are all in this together. We are essentially good human beings that just lose our way. Like that's kind of optimistic in a way. And at the same time, we're facing fully the sum of the tragedy that we can let in. So we're finding a way through. So it's not that things will get better, but letting in what's happening now and finding more meaning in our everyday life. Let's see. Turn the AC down that low. That's, that's one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it right now is just open your window. You don't need AC right now. So that is one way of thinking of it. You can try different things. And so what this is referring to is the sleep, like 65 degrees is we're at our best. Our body adjusts a bit, but I would try it. Try to get colder, especially if you're having trouble sleeping. If you're having trouble sleeping, get that temperature down and put more layers on so that you may sleep. And then do the computer glasses help? I do not know. I do not know if the computer glasses help. I haven't researched that, but I'm sure there is research about that one way or another. Natural light produces vitamin D in the body. No snooze. This is great. I love that people are taking these tips on. Afternoon meditation leads to a better sleep. That's wonderful. Nature deficit disorder. There is definitely something called nature deficit disorder, and most of us suffer from that. What about mindfulness? The mindfulness research, for those of you who may or may not have heard that word mindfulness, is deeply researched. It's the world of positive psychology, and it's kind of where psychology meets meditation and Buddhism and things like that. It's super, super helpful to look at mindfulness. So, and one example might be, how could I mindfully do the dishes? How could I be right here, right now while I'm doing those? One of the things to do is about slowing down. What about guilty feelings for not being as affected? I think that's a common thing too, is to feel guilty for that you're not suffering. One way to look at that is blocking something that is going to be really useful for people that are hurting right now, whether they're effective or whether they're hurting. So it's like, okay, how is my guilt helping me? Is it helping them? Like, no, okay. So you can at least talk to the guilt and be like, hey, thanks for showing up, but maybe another day, because this is not actually helping me. What you can maybe do is then let in just a little bit more of the grief of the people that are affected, because we are in this together. One of us feels something, all of us feel something in some very, very like lower level way. So you can talk to that guilty part, the one that's like kind of shaming you for being okay. But then more think about, let some grief in for those people, and then let some tenderness and kindness out. Whatever it might be, reaching out to people that you don't spend a lot of time with. You can reach out to somebody from your past. You can reach out to somebody that you're connected with now. You can look to the future, somebody that you don't have a lot of connection with, and just reach out to them, whatever it might be. Empathy, absolutely. Empathy, being there for other people. Missed the beginning, but would love to share this with others. Will this be available on YouTube or any other shareable platform? Absolutely. You'll be getting a link to, right after this, you'll be getting a link to the handout of all the information. But once the video is processed, we'll send you a link to that too. What are the other cognitive techniques for embedding resilience? So best way to do that is to look at a cognitive behavioral therapy book. So if you're in relationship with someone else, then look at John Gottman's books. What is it called? I'll grab a couple books. Be right back. Well, here's one anyway. This is 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work. This is cognitive-based therapist that talks about couples. So if you're looking for cognitive stuff, then look for cognitive-based therapy. So for example, with sleep, what they have found is that cognitive, it's either SCBT or CBTS. The S stands for sleep. And basically it's rewiring your brain to work to help you sleep better. And they've shown it to be way, way more effective than sleeping pills and things like that. We need AC in Florida and keep it around 68. Good point. Forgot about that. Yep, John Kabat-Zinn has done some great mindfulness research. Can we become irrationally happy problematic? I haven't found that to be a danger with anybody I've ever met in my life. Irrationally happy, is it problematic? Um, my experience, anyway, with the human race is that happiness is more in a short supply. So one other thing to think of with happiness, they call it happiness, but it's really more flourishing or finding more meaning in your life, or being lost in something in the good way, to being in, which is really an emotionless state, to be really engaged with something. For example, like grief and equaling kindness is not like an irrationally happy thing to do. I think the problematic part of like focusing on happiness is trying to get away from the sadness. But happiness, if you do feel any kind of joy, sense of elation, that's contagious, and it's contagious, and it travels further than sadness or depression does, for example. Can you speak on benefits of healing? And sorry if I'm missing anybody. No, I think that's good. Can you speak on the benefits in healing through music and art? Yeah, I didn't put that in here, but I'm a musician, and my father's an artist, and it is really, really well researched, well documented how powerfully music and art reaches us. I can speak more to music, but I'm guessing it's probably very, very similar to art. So just like outside, meaning like you can't get outside and you can bring the outside in, you can bring music in. If you can't play music, you can bring music in. Music will connect our emotions with lots of different things. And so you find the music that is going to help us. So for example, I have a playlist called No Words, and it's quiet music. I play it all morning, and then in the afternoon I have something called office yoga, or office jazz, not office yoga. That's a program I do. Office jazz, where it's like medium tempo, no words, and keeps the energy up. So that's just a simple way for me to move through, help, give me the benefit of music. Yesterday, I listened to the music of nature. So for example, the most powerful thing you can do is to sing or play music. The next most powerful thing you can do is to play music. Incredibly strong. And so, for example, I also play a lot for seniors. And one of the last things that that people recognize that can be reached, or can reach people with dementia and Alzheimer's, is with music. What about culture and disparities and low SES? Maybe if you can say what SES stands for. So, and also culture, do you mean culture like different cultures in the world? And so I'll wait for you for that. But Martin Seligman, Positive Psychology Resources. Yeah, Martin Seligman is the book I most recommend as a beginning to get into positive psychology world. And that's a book he wrote called Authentic Happiness. Super, super helpful. And cortisol, negative effects on brain chemistry. Absolutely, what you're trying to do is dampen the cortisol. So one of the ways to do that is to nature calms you down and gets you back to your executive center. The same thing with pausing and breathing. And then appreciation also suppresses that cortisol and brings you back to your brain. Socioeconomic, autonomous versus communal. I'm not certain what you mean, so I'm just not going to be able to help out there. But definitely, it sounds like there's some stuff there. Any other questions? It's about 1:48. Any last questions from anybody? Hey, thanks everybody for being on. And we are all in this together. And thank you for being on here. It made me feel less alone today to be able to connect with you. And may you bounce back and bounce forward into something that's super, super helpful to you and to all the people that you care about in the world, this precious world that we live in. And we'll see you hopefully next week for virtual presentation. Thanks, everybody. I'll stay on for one more minute if there is anything. Oh, thank you for the appreciation, folks. That's really appreciated. I'm seeing some appreciation in chat, and that means a lot to me. And may that gift go right back to you. All right, everybody. Have a great weekend, and we will see you hopefully in 1 week from today.